What's up everybody, my name is the Holy Apple and welcome to a new video. More specifically, this is going to be a no-nonsense guide about the new Duality dungeon that's just come out with Season 17. So without wasting any time at all, let's go straight into the video. First off, I'm going to talk about some generalized builds that you should be looking at utilizing. This can be literally any subclass, use what you're comfortable with. But for weapons, I would probably recommend using something for good ad clear, something for dealing with mages, and then a heavy weapon for dealing with the boss encounters, also to assist with mages. So for me, I was using a bit of a mixture of weapons I was using, so this could go from being the Wither Horde mixed with the Callous Mini Tool, and then as a heavy weapon I was using the Cataclysmic with bait and switch. And the reason I was doing this, because if you don't know, if you hit something with a Wither Horde when you've got a bait and switch weapon, it will constantly proc the bait and switch, which means Cataclysmic is constantly doing a much higher amount of damage. Another build that I was using throughout the dungeon was the Austringer hand cannon mixed with Cartesian coordinates, and then with a heavy I was using Galahorn or maybe even Sleeper Simulant. There's obviously a lot more variety that you can use for these builds, but you get the general idea of what I'm trying to aim at. Going into the dungeon itself, it starts off fairly normal, you get a bit of a context of what's going on from Eris, and then it activates a spawn portal, which is very similar to how Pip Heresy works. You just basically drop down this little portal and you'll go straight into the first zone. And the first thing you've got to do is walk up to the grate and you'll be able to see a bell across the way. Shooting this bell will send you into what I'm going to refer to as the Nightmare Realm, and this is going to be one of the main mechanics you are going to be using for the entirety of the actual dungeon. To progress even further into this, you just have to stand within the circle that is projected around the bell and shoot the bell again, and it will take you back into reality, as what I'm going to be calling it going forward. So the important thing to remember when it comes to the bell is if you are going into the Nightmare Realm, then you can shoot it from anywhere on the map. It's irrelevant where you are, but if you're coming back into reality, you must be standing right next to the bell for it to bring you back and not kill you. Next up, it's just a bit of an easy jumping puzzle, so feel free to climb this way any way you feel, but your basic goal is to get to the top where there will be another bell waiting for you. Again, after shooting this bell, you can go across the walkways and get to where the bell you shot is, and then bring you back into reality to progress into the next area. Going on from here is just a very linear path going towards the next bell, so I would trust that you'll be able to figure this out by yourselves. And eventually you'll go through this creepy looking doorway, basically referring to as Callus's mouth because it basically looks like it, and you'll enter this big room. So this is going to be the entrance to the first boss fight. After clearing out all the enemies in the room, just drop straight down and then there will be a raid banner to place, so by all means ready up and get ready for the first fight. So the way this fight is going to work is you are going to be chased by a Nightmare Shadow when you go into the Nightmare Realm. You can't do any damage to it initially, but that's not the point. The first objective you are going to be doing is opening up 2 of 4 doors that are in the reality realm, and the 4 doors I'm referring to are in each corner of the room. They each have their own symbols, which I'm going to refer to as dogs, blades, sun and chalice. When you go into the Nightmare Realm, you'll be going into the corners of these rooms and trying to find a scion that is lurking in the room. When you kill these guys, they will drop a banner for that room, so when you come back into reality, you can then deposit these banners and open up the door in the reality realm. So let's say you get the banner for the chalice, you will open up the chalice door in the reality realm, which is going to be marked with a big symbol on the floor. Something very important to note is that there are going to be Bell Guardians now. And what I mean by that is there are going to be some Cabal with incendiary packs on, and you will have to kill these before you can teleport back into the reality realm. This is also going to be the first encounter where you have a timer on how long you can be in the Nightmare Realm. So when you first go into the Nightmare Realm, your first priority should be to take out these Bell Guardians, and after that you can scour the rooms to get the banners. So the way my fire team did it when we were going forward on this is we'd have the 2 people who collected the banners stay in the rooms that they actually opened up, and then the 3rd person will be responsible for killing the Bell Guardians. So if you're standing in one of these rooms and you go into the Nightmare Realm, then you'll be fighting the nightmares that are going to be along that long corridor. This is where your special weapon that's designed to deal with mages comes into play. In my case during this run, I was using Riptide with Callous Mini Tool, so Riptide was making very short work of these enemies. And make sure you pick up the Nightmare Essence that drops off the first one that you kill, and it makes the rest of them very easy to deal with. When you've cleared out all the nightmares on both sides, this will open up the boss for damage, and by this time, whoever is supposed to be dealing with the Bell Guardians should have taken them down to give you that quick exit if you need it. But now it's going to be focusing on damage, so just absolutely wail on the boss with any kind of power weapons you have. Don't worry about ammo, because you can harvest this back in the reality realm. It is very important that you keep an eye on the timer in the bottom left, and if it starts to get towards 10 seconds, that is when I'd recommend you start running. And simply just repeat this process over and over again until you eventually kill the boss. Now as you progress further into the level, you will get to a very large area where there is a massive fallen hazard in front of you. So the way this room is going to work is as you progress through this very linear path, you will be activating switches which will bring these coffins out of the wall, and then you'll be able to use those coffins to move forward. Like I said, it's a very linear path until you get to this very big jump. Now trust me, you can make this jump even without stompies, so by all means try to wing it. If you are struggling to make the jump, feel free to equip a sword and make it a little bit easier on yourself. And eventually you will reach another big room with 4 statues in it, and this is where your first secret chest is going to be. So as you enter the room, if you look over to the left, there is going to be a big door on the same level that you are standing on as soon as you enter the room. Simply head over to that door, use the statues to get up if you need to, and the hidden chest is going to be right there for you. In order to solve this room, however, it is going to be very simple, but at the same time very confusing if you were doing this blind. So in the middle of the room there is a bell, and the idea is you've got to rotate all the statues to point towards you. And basically, when you go into the Nightmare Realm, there's going to be switches on each of these statues that you have to activate. And despite the fact that the switch turns clockwise, you need to remember that the statues themselves turn anti-clockwise. So a very common practice that we started doing as soon as we go into this room, we look at all the statues that need turning to be facing towards us, and we just make a note of how many times they need to turn anti-clockwise. And in the 3 times that I've cleared this dungeon, it seems to be the same 3 statues with the same 3 rotations, so after a while you get used to this, but just make a note of it before you go in. And when all statues are pointing towards the centre, congratulations, you are now onto the second boss phase. Now this area is called the Vault, and this one is a bit more elaborate to do, but still remains very samey to the last one. So again, you're going to be chasing down the banners with the 4 categories, which is Dogs, Blades, Sun, and Chalice. But this time it's a little bit different. So when you start this encounter, there will be a little hologram symbol that comes up near the middle of the arena, and it will show you what symbol you need to go and collect. Now in the diagonal corners of these rooms, there is going to be doors that are closed in the reality realm, but if you turn away from the doors, you can see what symbol it's going to be for. And the way we normally did this was we'd have 2 people as designated runners, and again a third to be taking care of the Bell Guardians. So again, bearing in mind that you can enter the Nightmare Realm anywhere on the map location, we basically stood next to the doors that we needed to be next to, and when we went to the Nightmare Realm, it would be a straight run up the stairs right behind us, and then we'd literally go from there. So in order to get the banner enemies to actually spawn, you need to run up the stairs and kill everything that's on that platform to start with, including the Colossus at the back, and this will spawn a Banner Guardian at the back. It will basically just a case of kill that Banner Guardian, you can pick the banner up, but there will be War Dogs that spawn in as well, so just be wary of them. After the 2 fire team members who are responsible for the banners have got the banners, head back to where the bell is, and by this time, the Guardian that is going to be dealing with the Bell Guardians should have cleared it by now and have the bell open for a quick retreat. When you come back into the reality realm, you are then going to go to the hologram of the banner that you picked up, and just simply dunk it, and that will trigger the DPS phase for the boss. And now here comes the fun drop. So when you kill this boss, guess what? You get to do it again. And again, because there's 3 phases to this fight. So 3 different bosses, you basically just do it 3 different times for the symbols, and there you go, the vault is open. Something I'd also like to note is don't worry if you don't get all the banners on the first run. It is not going to wipe the run. You just simply have to go in and get the banner that you didn't get last time, albeit you'll have less time to do so. So never be afraid to make the quick judgment of you have to retreat out the Nightmare Realm to save the run. This will be very important at the final boss. So after you've cleared the second boss encounter, guess what? Second secret chest is coming up. So you just have to approach this little black box pyramid thing. And if you walk onto the purple stuff, you can literally do a 180 from where you came into the room, and there is a little hole that you can crawl through and get the secret chest. So after the vault, you're going through the entire jumping puzzle motion again, and again, it's a very linear path, so just go at it and have fun. And eventually you'll reach a very big room, which looks very much like a boss arena, and there is a massive bell in the centre. So first of all, put your raid banner down, trust me, you're going to need it. So the way the encounter works is very similar to how you did the vault encounter. There will be holograms that show up next to the chains near the bell, and you'll have to get these from the banner enemies that are inside the Nightmare Realm. But this is where all your experience of the dungeon starts to come into play. So something that I do as a practice now after seeing a few other people run this dungeon and getting used to it myself, the first thing you're going to want to do is clear out every single Bell Guardian that's in the room so you've got all 3 bells unlocked. But before you go into the Nightmare Realm, you are going to want to stand on 1 or 2 places in the room. And the 2 spots of the room where I referred to is going to be where the Colossus spawn in the Nightmare Realm. So this is going to be next to where you planted the raid banner and the big circle at the back of the map where the bell is. Obviously this is heavily dependent on where you need to go for your banner symbols, so plan this in advance with whoever is taking the banners. So let's say for example you were to get Dogs and Chalice, you will then go to where the raid banner is to start, and you'll be able to take out the Colossus on that side to make your life a lot easier when you go into the Nightmare Realm. And then the entire encounter is pretty much the same as the vault encounter. Kill the scions that are standing up on the ledges, take the banners, go back into the reality realm. Obviously the 3rd Guardian who is not on banner patrol will be taking care of the Bell Guardians. But also be warned, there is a lot of War Dogs in this area, so it's very highly advised that you take something with a lot of ad clear. And that's phase 1 of this encounter done. So you'll have to do it a second time for the other 2 symbols, but I'll be fast forwarding on to when you have all 4 symbols. So now that you have all 4 symbols, you can see that the chains light up red and the bell is ready to be rung. So to activate the bell, you just shoot these little purple diamond shapes that are above where you dunked the banners, and this will activate the bell and send Keitel into the Nightmare Realm with you in tow. And now to explain the DPS encounter for Keitel. So there is 1 or 2 ways that you can do this. The first way is the optimal DPS way, which is where you watch where Keitel runs to, because you'll pick out one of the 3 bells in the room and run towards it. It is then your job to take out the 2 bell guardians that are guarding that bell. This will allow the bell to become active, and then all you have to do is shoot the bell when Keitel is in range. I'd typically say a little bit further than the inner circle of it, so there's a bit of range to it. And the second method to do this would just be kill every bell guardian in the room. And the way this will be done is 1 person on the fire team will be assigned to each bell, and that way you can have 2 guardians each. Something that is very important to note about this DPS encounter, you will only get a damage buff which allows you to do proper damage to Keitel if you're standing next to the bell. So much like how we've had for the entire dungeon, you need to be standing within the circle of the bell in order to get this buff to damage Keitel. If you don't get this buff, unfortunately, you will do very minimal DPS, but if you do miss the damage buff and you're doing the optimal way where you're tracking where Keitel is going, then it's not a bad thing if you miss the buff, because then you can divert your attention to killing the rest of the bell guardians whilst your fire team deals damage to Keitel. After you've done all 3 bells, Keitel will escape back into reality under the big bell, and then you have to start the whole thing over again. Something very important to note is that this isn't a raid boss. You get unlimited tries to do this. As long as your entire team doesn't wipe, then you can have as many cracks as you want at killing Keitel. An interesting tip that I found out when I was doing this, if you stand next to Keitel, she does stomp, but it doesn't do that much damage, so you can actually use this to stall her if she's going towards a bell and you need more time. It's a very nice tactic to use if you want to try and buy more time for your team. But after however many attempts it takes you, you should eventually be able to defeat Keitel, and that should be it. The dungeon is finished. I hope you have the best of luck getting Heart Shadow, and if you don't, there are some triumphs that you can unlock to increase your chances of getting it the next time round. But ultimately, I hope this guide was very helpful. If it is, let me know in the comments down below. If there's any other tips you can provide for new players, leave them in the comments as well. It will be very helpful to have for the newbies going on. But that is it from me. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.